In this video, we're going to learn how to work with Platformatic DB database migrations. We can use migrations to set up the schemas for our database tables. And as our application grows, we can use migrations to add new tables and columns to our database. We already have a basic Platformatic DB app here. We have Platformatic installed as a dependency. We have our Platformatic DB config file where we're specifying our database connection string. And this database URL value will be automatically populated by the .env file that we have here. And we have our database URL. We can see here that we're using SQLite, but everything that we're going to learn in this video will generally apply to any of the database systems that are supported by Platformatic DB. Let's go ahead and start up our server. We'll see that we receive this error saying that no tables have been found in the database. To add tables to our database, we need to configure database migrations. We're going to configure our migrations in platformatic.db.json. We'll do this by adding a migrations object, and we'll set the directory that we're going to actually store our migrations files in. Now let's go ahead and create our database migrations directory, and we can now actually go ahead and create a new database migration. We can see that two new files have been created for us. We can view these files over here in the migrations directory. If we open up 001.do.sql, we'll see that it's currently empty. And in this file, we're going to create a new migration, which will create a database table called movies. We'll only create that if it doesn't already exist. And it will have a column, which will be an integer, and that will be our primary key. And we're going to have a title column, which will be a text field. We also need to set the undo migration, so if we ever decide to roll back this migration, we'll be able to actually drop that table movies. Let's go ahead and apply the migration. We can check what's being created in our SQLite database using the SQLite CLI. And this allows us to connect to our database and view all the tables and the schemas of our tables. Here we can see that we have our movies table that has been created by that migration, and this versions table here is managed automatically for us to help track what migrations have been applied. We can also go ahead and view the schema for our movies table by using the table info query. We can see here that we've got the ID and the title columns as we'd expect. One other feature that we have that's related to migrations is automatic types. These can be generated for us when we actually run our database migrations. Let's go ahead and configure this in our platformatic.db.json. So we can do this by setting a types object and setting auto generate to true. Now when we go and run the migrations apply command, it will handle automatically creating entity types. If we go ahead and take a look over here, we'll see that there is a global type definition file, and this is useful for us later on if we start to add custom functionality to our application. These types will be automatically updated whenever we apply a new migration. Let's go ahead and create a new migration. And in this one, we're going to go ahead and actually add a new column to our movies table. We'll open up that empty 002, and we're going to say that we'll alter the movies table, and we'll add a column year. That's going to be an integer, and we'll have its default value as 0. And let's also go ahead and make sure we set the undo migration if we ever want to roll that back. And that will drop the column year. So we can now save those, and we can go ahead and apply that migration. So we again run the migrations apply command. And we can see that it's also gone and updated our movie entity type. So let's go and take a look at that. See over in our types folder, movie type definition here now has a year field. And if we head over into SQLite, we can see that our table schema has also been updated in our SQLite database. In some situations, we might want to roll back changes that have been applied to our database. We can handle this with the rollback option, and that will roll back the last migration that was applied to our database. We can verify this in the SQLite CLI, and we can see that that year column has been removed, and also, as we'd expect, our type has been updated here for the movie entity. We can also actually handle then reapplying those migrations and bringing everything back up to date. So our database schema includes that full columns and everything that we've already created there in our migrations. If we want to roll back multiple migrations, we can use Platformatic DB migrations, apply, and we can pass the to option 001. In this case, because we only have 2 migrations, it has the same effect as doing -- rollback. But if we have multiple migrations, it could potentially end up, we could roll back multiple migrations in one go. We can actually go ahead and roll back the database to its initial state before we applied any migrations by doing the to option, but passing through 000, and that will return it back to its initial state. So we'll see that our entity type has disappeared, and then over here we'll see in the database we no longer have a movies table. Lastly, we can configure our database migrations to be automatically applied when we start up our server. We can do this by, in our Platformatic DB config, setting auto apply to true. Now if we stop our running server and we start it back up again, we should see that those migrations have been automatically applied for us here, and also those types have been generated for us. And we can confirm in our database that we've now got that movies table again with the full movies schema.